welcome back. It is a Monday morning, which means I've got some stuff to ship and I'm going to share it with you. 19 things sold over the weekend, and numbers wise, that's great. Dollar wise, there wasn't any super great sales, but I'll take every single one of them, even the NOLOs. Also thought today we would talk about sell-through rate and what that means when you hear people talking about the sell-through rate. I look at it in a couple different ways, and we'll talk about that today. So stick around. All right, 7 of our sales this week came from Etsy, which beat out all other platforms. I only had three sales from eBay this weekend. This is why cross-listing has become important for us, because had it only been eBay this week, it would have been terrible. So I am going to go through the eBay sales first, though. Okay, old hardware. These are drawer pulls. These are new. Well, mostly new. This one had been opened, but unused. And these sold for $9.99. Not huge money, but they did sell pretty quickly, in less than 3 weeks. And we only had $1 into them. I like to find old hardware like this, especially if it's in the package. I mean, $10 for just 2 pieces, that's pretty good. And here's another old hardware piece. So this is a towel rack, brass towel rack, and we got $32.99 for this one. And this also did not take very long to sell. We did pay a little more for this one. We paid $4 for this one, but that's still close to 10 times our money. And when you sell it in less than 30 days, that's pretty fast. I'm always happy when I sell things in under 30 days. This last eBay sale is a Muppet. I almost just gave this away, but we have a rule that we follow 99% of the time, and that is look things up. When we get big lots of stuff, and we have to go through it and sort through and decide what to keep, what's worth selling, what we should be giving away, sometimes I'm tempted to just chuck stuff that looks like it wouldn't have any value. This guy didn't look special to me, and he's not super special. We got $8 for him, but he was easy to list, he was easy to ship, and he sold in 60 days, less than 60 days. Still pretty good turnaround. I'm shooting for always selling things in under 90 days whenever possible. So those borderline things, those under $10 things, if I think I'm going to sell them quickly and they're easy to list, we'll sometimes list them. So we had pennies in this. Borderline NOLO, maybe, but it moved fast. Okay, I'll go through my Poshmark sales from the weekend. We have 3. Yes, we have 3 Poshmark sales going out. And thank goodness one of them was clothing, or I wouldn't have had a clothing sale this week. So these are Hoka's, and they were not in the best condition because there was wear in the heels. And I wasn't sure. The rest of them looked pretty good. And I wasn't sure about them, but I only gave $2 for them. So I decided to take a chance. They took a while to sell. And I'm sure it's because of the wear to the heels. It took 7 months. It took 7 months to get these sold. And then I took an offer of $14 on them on Poshmark. And they have 20% fees. So maybe don't pick up shoes that have that kind of damage on them. I'm not losing money, but not making great money either. But it does still make me a clothing seller. This next item, it always surprises me when people buy these online because of shipping. It's a cooler, and it's sold on Poshmark, which I never would have expected. But again, because of cross-listing, I just put it out there so that it has an opportunity to sell on any platform that I list on. And that's probably, because Poshmark shipping's only $8, that's probably why it sold there, maybe. It sold for $26 on Poshmark. And I priced it higher there because it's Poshmark and the fees are higher and people usually make offers there. But this sold for full price and I'm happy. Oh, and I had $1.66 in that cooler. So not very much money in that cooler. It was part of the estate sale clear out that we did. All right, I had one Mercari sale. Mercari sales probably our least active platform. Mercari and Poshmark is where we make the least number of sales anyway. And this one I'm gonna call a no-low today. I actually like picking up flatware when there's multiple pieces that are the same pattern because it will sell, usually for decent money, sometimes better than others. This was sold for $12.50. And while that's not terrible, it took 1.5 years. So I guess I need to pay more careful attention to the sell-through rate, which we're going to talk about those in a minute, because this just took too long. And while I only had a couple dollars into it, that's just a long time to sit. It doesn't take a lot of space. It won't be that hard to ship. But if it's over 1 year, it's not something I want to be on the lookout for again. So, no low. So let's talk for a minute about sell-through rates. I think there are a couple different ways to look at sell-through rates. Usually when you hear people talking about check the sell-through rate, most people are looking at eBay sold comps. And eBay sold comps are going to show you things that sold within 90 days. Unless you go to their research tool. But I'm talking about just if you go to their sold listings, it's going to show you what sold in the last 90 days. So if you have those butter knives that I just showed you, and I looked them up, and I find that there's 30 of them listed that are identical to that, currently listed, and then I go to the number of sold items, and I find that there are only 3 of those identical items that sold in the last 90 days. That's a 10% sell-through rate. That is not good. 100% sell-through rate would be 30 items listed, 30 items sold in that 90 days. So 100% sell-through rate is good, very good, and it's what we look for. But that still means it could take up to 90 days for those items to sell. Sometimes I think people are thinking, oh, it's got a 100% sell-through rate, it's going to sell really fast. Well, 90 days really fast. Sometimes faster, for sure. But when you get to really faster sales, it's going to be when that sell-through rate is over 100%. And that's when you get into your BOLO categories. That's what you want to be looking for, things with over 100% sell-through rate. Quick return on your money. But I am very happy with things that have a 100% sell-through rate. But then I also want to talk about the rate at which we are selling our inventory. Not just looking at sell-through rates when we're picking things up, but how fast are we selling the things that we buy? And there's a couple ways I look at that also. So the number of items you sell compared to the number of items you have listed in 90 days, that's your personal sell-through rate. And so for instance, right now we have 830 items listed. And in the last 90 days, and this is on eBay. I use eBay as a gauge because I do cross-list most of my things everywhere, but not every single thing is everywhere. So eBay is just my guide. And 830 items listed currently, and over the last 90 days, we've sold 494, which is roughly a 60% sell-through rate. I would like it to be higher, and I'm striving to get it higher. And to get it higher, we need to buy better stuff. We need to buy stuff that's gonna sell quicker. But still, I think if you're over a 50% sell-through rate, you're doing okay. And if it's less than that, I hope that the sale prices of your items are really good, because that's a factor too. If you're not having as high of a sell-through rate, but you're selling really good stuff and you're getting $100, $200, $300 for each item you sell, then you don't have to have as high of a sell-through rate. You can afford to sit on things a little longer because you're making more on them. So you kind of have to weigh, and you have to kind of consider, what are you selling? We are trying to increase our average sale price. And so I think that does make your sell-through rate decrease a little bit, because it often takes a little bit longer for those higher priced items to sell. The other way that we look at sell-through rate when we're evaluating how we're doing is to look at how many items you're selling on average per day. So with 830 listings that we have right now, to sell 8 items a day would be roughly 1% daily sell-through rate. I think we heard Daily Refinement talk about that should be your goal, is a 1% daily sell-through rate. We're not really there. We're about half of that. So we're between 0.5% a day to 1% a day. So we personally are selling between 4 to 8 items a day. Again, it is a little subjective because it's going to depend on what you're selling. But I think that as a rule, you can look at those numbers to kind of just judge what you're doing. You know what kind of things you're selling. You know, if you're selling things that take longer to sell, that rate is going to be lower. If you're trying to buy things that are going to sell really fast, but your sell-through rate doesn't reflect that, then maybe you're not buying good enough stuff. I know that we still don't always buy good enough stuff. Sometimes I have a hard time turning down those Muppet babies that I think are going to sell fast, even though it's only $8. So, I mean, my sell-through rate was good on that, but the quality of the merchandise wasn't great. I don't know. You have to do what works for you. And that's the beauty of this business and what we do. We can all do what works for us. If you're okay with a slower sell-through rate, if you have room to sit on stuff and store stuff, that's fine. And so one last thing that I look at to kind of help me know, am I picking up good stuff or not, is how long on average are things taking to sell? So I use My Reseller Genie for accounting purposes. I don't know if you've heard me talk about them, but My Reseller Genie is great for resellers who want to track their inventory, track their expenses, do all their accounting, chart their sales. It gives you wonderful charts, helps you do your taxes. If you aren't using them, you should think about it. It has really helped us out a lot. It also gives me this graph of how long it's taking me to sell things on average and how much I'm getting for them. So like for today, of the 19 things that I've sold, 14 of them sold within 30 days of listing them. That is ideal. I want to sell things fast. That is ideal. So that's good. So their graphs are great. And you can also change the time frames so that when you're looking at your sales, you can change. You can look at 30 days. You can look at 90 days. You can look at the whole year to date. You can compare. So great tool. And when I looked at my sales to date for the year, 60% of the things that I've sold this year have sold within 30 days. But that leaves another 40% to look at. How long did it take me to sell the other 40% of our items? Shockingly, the next highest percentage of sales at 14% was items that had been listed for more than 250 days. That leaves 26% of our items sold to things that sold between 30 days and 250 days. So 60%, less than 30 days. I guess probably your goal would be to get that 60% number up. Sell things fast. Buy things that are going to sell fast. Use the tool to track how you're doing and compare it to a previous quarter or a previous year or a previous month or whatever you want to do to compare. And see if you're growing. See if you're improving. That's our goal, right? I don't know. I hope it's our goal to improve. It's my goal to improve. So I hope that all makes sense. Feel free to drop questions below if you were confused. Maybe I wasn't very clear. But I'd be glad to clarify and answer questions, and maybe you have some insight to share with me that I should be looking at also. I'd love to learn. All right, let's move on to Facebook, and let's talk about how many I had. I had 6 Facebook sales over the weekend. 2 of them are already gone, and I can't show you them in person because they were local pickup items. The first one I'll show you here was this gaming steering wheel system. We got it from my son-in-law Cody in the buyout we did from him. We gave him $20 for it, and we sold it for $80 in less than a month, and no fees. The second item that was a local pickup item, surprised me that it was local, was a deck of playing cards. These are vintage playing cards that had strawberries on the front. I sold these for $12, and we had $1 into these. And again, these were listed for less than a month, about 3 weeks. Then we have my Facebook Marketplace orders that I'm shipping out this weekend. So as I'm editing my video, I realized I must not have hit record at one point. So I have 3 of my Facebook orders that I didn't get recorded for you, and they're gone, so I can't show them to you. But I'm just going to pop them up here on the screen, and you can see them one at a time and just at least see what I shipped out. And then I'll show you the last Facebook order that was the best one. This last one is pretty good. This is a Fenton piece, and it is signed and numbered, and it's also signed by somebody in the Fenton family, George Fenton. And this is 2003, so this is just vintage. Vintage being anything that's 20 years or older. We got this in the estate sale buyout we did. I think I figured we have about $1.50 in this. So I sold this for $65. I had listed it for $75. I got a $60 offer. I countered at $65 and it sold. So, yay. Time to get into the Etsy sales. So I have 7 things shipping out on Etsy. So it was the biggest platform, like I mentioned earlier. And the first item was this gold tone Burwood shelf. This is not wood. This is like Homeco, Home Interiors, Sirocco, Dart, Burwood. They're all basically the same company. And that's what this is. This I paid 50 cents for and sold it for $24.99 in just a couple weeks. Funny thing about this one is that I have another one to sell now. I found one the next day exactly like this, and I paid more for it. I paid $3 for it, but I figure these sell pretty good. Keep an eye out on Homeco, Burwood, Sirocco stuff. Look it up though, because it's not all as good as this. Some of it's a lot better than this. So yeah, keep an eye out. Old electronic clock radios. These are hit and miss too. This one, faux wood, 1970s or 80s, I guess. But General Electric, for some reason, brand seems to sell pretty well. And this one sold for $33.99. It took a little longer than the 30 days. It took about a month and a half, more like 6 weeks to sell this one. But not bad for $33.99. Also, we had $3 into this. So yeah, 10 times our money. All right, if you watched my video last week, you saw me talk about some things I got from my friend Paula and her husband Lyle. This is another thing I got from them. And it's an atomizer, and it's cute. And I typically will look at these and see if they're worth picking up. I just grabbed this one from her for $3 because I liked the way it looked. I didn't look too closely at it. So this was my fault. And it's Avon, which is not the best brand to pick up. Typically, Avon items are harder to sell. There are exceptions, as with anything. But I sold this for $9.99. So I paid $3 for it. I'm going to classify this as a no-low. and I would not look for another one of these again. So another thing I've talked about, if you've been paying attention, are old metal frames, like this one. This is an 8x10 gold tone metal frame. Nothing super special about it. Well, it's pierced. It's got these holes in it. That makes it a little different than some that you see. I picked this one up at a thrift store. I usually don't like to spend more than $2 a piece on these kinds of things. And I spent $2 on this plus tax. So $2.22 is what I have in it. And it sold for $24.50 on Etsy in just 3 weeks. I told you guys, you should be looking for these. Don't look too hard though, because then you're competing with me. So it's a beautiful flower pot, right? It's like 2 pieces. And I wasn't sure why it was 2 pieces other than to keep the water from it sitting in water all the time, which made sense. Google image is our friend. I looked it up. It's an African violet pot. That's what they call it. Special for African violets. We got this in the estate sale buyout we did also. We figured we have about $1.50 into this. And this one surprised me a little bit. Wasn't expecting quite this good of a sale. It sold for $39.99 plus $5 ship, and it'll probably cost me $12 to ship. So, but still over $30 in gross profit before my $1.66 and my fees. African violet pot. Keep an eye out. Okay, another thing that has surprised me that we've learned in, I don't know, the last 6 months or so, is to keep an eye out for tennis rackets. This one, metal frame, it's in good condition. Got this from my son-in-law. Maybe he's the one that's helped educate us. But this sold on Etsy for $42.99. So that surprised me. Does that surprise you? We only gave him $2.50 for this. We might have underpaid him. The last Etsy sale was a really fast sale. Pyrex in pretty good condition. I'd say very good condition. Clean, minimal utensil marks. And sold for $32.50. We have $1.50 in it from the estate sale buyout we did. That's turning out to be a pretty good deal for us. We have more than made our money and are on the road to make a lot more still. Looks like I missed one item from Poshmark when I was showing. This is one of those melted plastic popcorn, I think they call it, pieces. This is a lighted lamp. Pretty cute. It sold for $22 on Poshmark. It took 2 months. It took a full 8 weeks for this to sell. And we had $3 in it. Not huge profit, but it's kind of fun. Couldn't pass it up because it was in good condition and it was unique, and I like those kinds of things. Different often sells. This was pretty different. I think that's it. 19 items it sold. So again, I gotta go get it packed and out the door still today before noon. So I better get busy. And I hope that you'll hit that like and subscribe and come back and see me again and give me some feedback. Tell me how you think I'm doing, how I can improve, what you'd like to see, what I should talk about. Any of that would be great to hear from you. Until next week, my friends, happy picking.